Another week here inside the Bears Den, and we're glad to have you with us with our head football coach, Sam Shade, and we're going to break down the Alabama State game in just a moment. We're also going to talk with our amazing wide receiver coach, Rodney Bivens, and we'll actually talk a little more about some of the other happenings inside of Miles College athletics. Coach, before we get into breaking down the game, first and foremost, we're glad to have you with us here another week.
Always good to be here.
You're going into this Alabama State game coming off of the loss against West Alabama, but it was a very close loss. You also had a game against Alabama State last year where you were able to pull the upset, and you got a lot of guys back who were able to experience that. Talk a bit about how that experience may have helped get this team ready going into Montgomery again this year.
Well, having guys that had been there before, had been to Montgomery and been able to get a win, I feel like that helped our team as far as just going in, just believing, that we could go out and compete and win the game against a Division I opponent. Obviously, that didn't happen on Saturday, but we had a lot of good effort, just let some opportunities slip away offensively and defensively, some plays that we probably should have made that we didn't make, and they capitalized off those things and, played the way a Division I team is going to play you at home in their home opener.
And that had to have something to do with some of the juice that was in the stadium. Certainly they didn't want to lose twice in a row. It was their first game at home, and everybody was actually gunning for Miles. That doesn't happen a lot of times when a D2 goes to a D1 program.
Right. I kind of heard a little bit of that also, but, you've got to be realistic. I looked out there at times and, we had, say, defensively, 3 true freshmen out there playing at one point. They didn't start the game, but, early in the season, you're going to play a lot of guys. So when you look out there and you're young in some positions, you start saying, man, we can't make any mistakes. We can't give them things because, when you're playing a team like that, you're playing up, they're going to capitalize. They're going to take advantage of those mistakes.
Well, there was a lot of action that went on in this ball game. Maybe not a lot on the scoreboard on the Miles side of the ledger, but when we come back, we'll start breaking down this ball game. You're inside the Bears Den with head coach Sam Shade here in Miles Athletics. Back inside the Bears Den with the head football coach Sam Shade. And coach, opening part of the ball game, again, we talked about it before the break, about how this team had confidence going into this week based off of what happened last week at West Alabama and again the previous year against Alabama State. You get on defense first, and you got a couple of plays in, it looked all right, and then all of a sudden disaster happened. Talk about that play.
Well, we get them to third and long, right where you want them. And we felt like we had a really good call on that play. And, just unfortunate, their quarterback and one of their receivers, just a really good throw, really good catch. And, we're actually in a position where we can make a play. That's one of those opportunities that we talk about, we let slip away. And, unfortunately for us, they were able to, make that play, good throw and catch, and able to get a big touchdown and start it off. But, we still didn't, we didn't go in the tank right there. We talked about on the sideline, like, hey, we're going to put you in some position to make plays. We just got to make them when we get there.
And Alabama State came into the ball game. Their big quarterback addition got hurt in the first game. He's out for the season. Apparently the backup was out too. This was a third-string guy. Did that change how you all prepared for Alabama State? Did you have enough film on it? How did you feel going against this particular quarterback?
Well, the kid that started the game, he's a big, strong kid from South Florida. He could really run. He could really throw, strong arms. So, we felt like he had the tools to do some things against us. So we couldn't change our game plan too much. But we did feel like they were going to try to establish the running game, which they did. They've got a stable of pretty good running backs. And when you've got a big offensive line like that, you've got to try to, when you're playing a team that's a division down, you've got to try to establish the run. They did. And we struggled to hold them to a number that we felt like was a good number. I think they had around 250 on the ground rushing. Didn't really throw it much. They had about 80 yards passing, but most of the damage was done on the ground, with the exception of that first passing touchdown.
And we'll talk about the ground game in a little bit, at least defensively, trying to prepare against the running game. But as you got the ball back, your offense didn't slouch. They came back, methodical drive, play after play, converting third downs. Talk about that drive a bit and what you were trying to accomplish there.
Well, that's what we talked about with our players today. We talked about offensively. We were able to move the ball at times, especially early on. We get a good drive going, and then we make some type of mistake, whether it's up front, whether it's a drop pass, or whether it's maybe a errant throw. But we've got to find ways to just do more. And that's one of the things that one of our coaches talked about with our guys is, up front in the running game, we're getting on people, but we got to do more. We got to move people more. Our running backs, they've got to, get a few more yards. At every position, we just felt like we've got to do more if we want to be able to compete and win games like that one.
And Janelle Scott, he got off to another solid start for you, moving the ball on the ground. And while the numbers haven't necessarily matched up to a great 2 games for him, he's been effective at times being able to move the rock on the ground.
Well, you know what? He has, and we know we played 2 really good teams back-to-back to start the season, and, that's always going to be tough. But, we do feel like we've got to try to establish the run, and, we did. And Janelle did some good things. There was a play in the second half, obviously, we'd like to have back. A very uncharacteristic fumble by him where we're moving the ball, we've got momentum, and it was just one of those days. The first ball game we didn't have any turnovers, didn't turn it over, didn't fumble, no interceptions. This ball game we have 2 fumbles and we have 2 interceptions, and that's one of the things we talk about. To win ball games, you've got to win the turnover battle. You've got to be able to run the ball, and you've got to be able to stop the run. And both of those 3 things we didn't do on Saturday, and it's hard to win games when you don't do those things.
Right. You had a plus on the turnover against West Alabama. I think you were at -2 for the Saturday game against Alabama State. So now you get that first drive and you are unable to convert. You don't get the first down. You don't get any points out of that. Now you got to come back and get back out on defense again. Kind of where was the mindset of your guys? How did you feel that they were ready to come back out there and compete, especially on the defensive side?
Well, believe it or not, the entire ball game, I don't feel like our guys ever just lost confidence or, just went out there and went through the motions. We felt like our guys actually did compete. It's just there were some opportunities that we had defensively and offensively, even special teams, that we did not make the play when it was an opportunity for us to make the play. And but I didn't see anybody, get down or, not go out there and play hard. I felt like our guys probably up until some point in the fourth quarter, maybe late fourth quarter, the realization set in that, okay, we're down 21. It's going to be it's going to be tough for us to come back from that.
When you look at some of the defensive guys who have come out here early in this season, one of those guys, William Hardy, had 8 more tackles on Saturday after a big first week. Talk about his play over the first couple of games and how he has been able to kind of maybe stabilize things at the linebacker spot.
Well, he's done some good things. We talk about he's a senior linebacker. He's played a lot of ball. He's a smart kid, like we talk about. But like I tell you, one of the biggest things, he's gotten himself in better shape, the best shape I've seen him in since I've been here. He was a little bit banged up actually going into that ball game. So that's why we played some younger guys a little bit more. A couple guys, Matthew Ufundo played a little bit. He's a freshman from over in Fultondale. Also played John Robinson. He's a freshman from, down in South Alabama. So we had some guys. We played a lot of guys. And I also got to mention Jeremiah Hudson-Davis at safety. He had 11 tackles. He's a true sophomore from right here in Fairfield. There were some good performances. There was some good performances. But, like I said, my college coach always talked about there are 5 or 6 plays in a game that are going to determine the outcome. And when those plays happen, you got to make them. And I feel like we didn't make those plays the big ones that really determine the outcome of it. But you take those away, we felt like we had some good performances, good efforts. We just didn't do enough to win the ball game.
Is there a particular drive maybe that you felt like, man, we really could have done more with this drive? I know you had a couple where there was turnovers and some where you didn't finish. Talk maybe a little more about that drive where you get it first and goal and just could not put any points on the board. That was a second half drive, but that one I'm sure had to hurt a little more too.
Yeah, you're talking about the one where we attempted the field goal.
Right,
right. So in that situation, you know, we felt like we were going to score. I think everybody, you know, felt like, hey, we're going to do something to get in the end zone, and unfortunately we didn't. And that takes a little bit of air out of you, you know. And then we some people say, well, why didn't you go for it at that point? Well, you know, when it's 4th and goal at the 10-yard line, it shortens the field, you know, like as far as the end zone and all that type of stuff. If it had been 4th and 10 from the 20, I probably would have gone for it because we had a little bit more real estate, you know, to try to get the first down with. But when you're down there like that, so I said, okay, we made a 44-yarder earlier. Rod Smith made a 44-yard field goal. So I felt pretty good about, you know, him kicking the 27-yarder and got a good snap, good hold, good protection. And, you know, it hits the goalpost, and it's like that kind of sums some things up on what type of game it was for us, you know, because we're right there, like you said, we're moving the ball, we're right down there in scoring position, and, you know, we come away with no points. So, you know, we got a lot of work to do. We've got some red zone work we've got to do. We've got some work we've got to do on third down, but I think most importantly, we've got to work on the running game. We've got to work on offensively, being able to run the ball more, and defensively, we've got to work on stopping the run.
Talk a little bit, too, about what Alabama State did. And obviously, there's numbers that are different as far as roster sizes, scholarships, all those things. They come with Division I versus Division II games. In fact, I think the Division II level, all the Division II schools that played Division I schools this week, they are lost. So we're not by ourselves by any stretch of the imagination. But what is it that makes that tough in going up against those kind of schools?
Well, you know, for instance, you know, it's one of those deals where on paper, Division II schools shouldn't be able to beat Division I schools because, number one, it starts with the scholarships. You know, they get FCS schools like Alabama State, they get 63 scholarships. We get 36 scholarships. So there's a difference in the scholarships. Also, they've got some competitive advantages as far as they're able to spend more time with their student athletes in the summer than we can at the Division II level. So, you know, you just start off with those things, and then you go to, okay, they're going to have guys that are a little bit bigger, a little bit stronger, a little bit faster, you know, just because in recruiting, you know, sometimes a guy's going to want to go to what he perceives to be the bigger school. But our guys, we don't look at it that way. I never talk about that with our players. What I talk about is they put 11 guys out there at a time, we put 11 guys out there at a time. And it boils down to, you know, which 11 wants it the most and which 11 executes the game plan and does what they're coached to do. And this year they out-executed us, and, you know, they just, you know, did a good job as far as their coaching staff. Coach Eddie Robinson, who I've known a long time, who I consider a friend. Been knowing him for years through our NFL background, but they did a good job, and they're a good football team. Like I said it last year after we beat them, I said those guys are going to bounce back because they're a good football team, and they did. And, you know, this year, you know, it didn't go our way. You know, last year it bounced our way. This year it didn't.
Well, again, as I said before, none of the Division II schools beat any of the FCS schools that were on the schedule this week, but we certainly were competitive. We'll talk a little bit more about this ball game and look into what's coming up in the future in a moment. But after the break, we're going to bring in our wide receiver coach, Rodney Bivens, and talk about a storied career that's been a lot of places in the state of Alabama and beyond. You're watching Inside the Bears Den with our head coach, Sam Shade. We're back inside the Bears Den with head coach Sam Sheridan. He'll be back in a moment, but this particular segment, we're going to talk to our wide receiver coach, Mr. Rodney Bivens Sr., who has been around this program quite some time, but he's also been around college football. He's been around football, period, and he has quite a story to tell. And Coach Bivens, we do thank you for joining us here inside the Bears Den.
Well, I certainly thank you, Moore, for inviting me, and certainly it's an opportunity to share with you and in our program and our team, and it's always exciting to talk about the Golden Bears football.
Well, like I said, you've been around here, so you've seen some things change up, down, in and out. Talk about being on Coach Shade's staff and how you've seen just a short amount of time how things have changed around here and how these kids he's gotten them up to compete and the staff's gotten them up to compete.
Yeah, I tell you what, and when Coach Shade first got the job and he interviewed me, and I don't think it lasted very long because the first thing I told him, I said, Coach, I want to stay. And he said, okay, let's talk about it. And then, he kept me on the staff, and what a great coach he is, and, even a better man. So I tell you, this worked out for me real well to stay here at Miles, and this is my 11th season that I've been here at Miles, and seen a lot of tremendous growth, and with Coach Shade turning the program around, and there's just players believing in him and his philosophy and what he's teaching these young men to not only just be football players, but be better men, when they leave the game of football.
Well, you talked about having been here, and you were coaching some championship squads here. As you see this program, again, grow to get to where it's at a championship level, just talk about the things that have to be done for players to get there, because people think, we can go out and recruit the best players and all of a sudden we're going to win, but there's more to it than that.
Right. I think the key thing is, too, when you get the players in, that they come from different backgrounds, obviously from different high schools and different styles of coaching and teaching, and I always felt like that coaching is teaching and teaching is coaching, and then we pride ourselves on being excellent teachers where, when we tell a player how to explain something to her that is thorough, and I think the biggest thing is that, you want them to trust you. Once the player begins to trust you, you build that trust and that bond, and I think that opens up an opportunity for unity, and I think it opens up an opportunity for, the team to continue to get better and better, just like we had our team meeting this morning with Coach Shade, and the players were energetic. They knew that we had some opportunities that probably got away from us that we had, to look back on. And so we felt like, too, that, moving forward, we want to put that game behind us, learn from our mistakes, as obviously that's what you have to do in order to be a championship team. You have to learn from your mistakes and put those behind you and move forward to the next game. And I think with this bye week is going to help us do that, and we're looking forward to our next opponent, getting back out there, redeem ourselves.
You talk about getting out there. When you got out there to be a coach, it actually wasn't part of your plan. Tell us about how you ended up getting into coaching.
Yeah, it wasn't. I remember I was a senior at University of North Alabama, and I went home at Bonnert High School. That's my alma mater, and they were in spring training, and I remember the defensive coordinator, he called me over, and he just looked at me. He threw me the whistle and said, "You got him." He went on the bench and sat down, and I looked at him. He said, "You got him." So after that, just building that relationship with those players and just being out there, it's the next best thing of not being able to put the pads on and the helmet on, but it's just being close to the game and being able to teach those players what my coaches taught me on and off the field. And they was, let's say, the bug bit, and I was, and 43 years later, I'm here. Still here. I'm enjoying every minute of it.
And you've had an opportunity to coach in a lot of places. You've coached some really top flight ball players. Talk about that particular journey and how you ended up, hitting some of the corners of the state that you did.
Well, it's all about relationships, and as you know, it's about relationships. And every job that I've had, it's been about relationships. So when I first got into coaching at Bradshaw High School back in '81, that's how far it goes back. 1981, Jim Blair was my coach at University of North Alabama, and he was on the high school staff, which was Bradshaw High School, and that was Florence High School, and Coach Blair got me there. And then 6 years later, my high school coach left minor and went to Evanston, and I went on there to be a defense coordinator. at Anderson High School, where we, had a lot of success, and it was a great thing where I sat back and had an opportunity to learn from an outstanding football mind. And then when Coach Holiday left, he was the head coach at Anderson. He left, retired, and the state of Alabama moved to Florida, and I was fortunate enough to move up and become the head coach at Anderson. And we just wanted to keep the tradition going. And when I left there, went to Noonan, Georgia, and again, it was a relationship that with Coach Robert Herring. He was the head coach at Oxford, who was one of our rivals, and so it was great to get in with him. And then came back and left Noonan, Georgia, and went to Central High School in Tuscaloosa. Knew some people there, and also when it came time to get into college coaching, coaches kept asking me, "Have you ever thought about getting into college coaching?" when they would come by recruiting, and I really didn't think about getting into college coaching. And then one day where John Neal was coaching at UAB, and he recommended me to Coach Watson Brown, and I joined that staff, and I really have enjoyed, coaching with some great men and just learning from other people about the game of football and how to do certain things, recruiting and, player development and player relationships. So it's been a lot of fun. And then when I left UAB, I got in with Coach Ruffin. I knew him, and he helped me get to Tuskegee. And Tuskegee, when Coach Ruffin left Tuskegee and came to Miles, and that's when I joined his staff in 2014, and been here ever since. So it's been a great 11-year journey being here at Miles College.
And you're at UAB. The name that a lot of people will know is Roddy White, who went on and became a all-timer with the Atlanta Falcons in the NFL. And you've coached some all-conference performers here at Miles College as well. You won yourself 3 championships being on staffs here at Miles. And so you've done pretty much everything. And now you talked about before, your son is now coaching too. And so that's got to feel pretty good to be able to kind of pass down that particular legacy.
It does. And especially, when he calls it, he wants to know certain things. And we try to talk a lot about philosophy and things that, he's that I had an opportunity to experience, and he's going through some of the same things. And, you get trials and you get ups and downs in this business, and, it's rewarding. But I think the thing that's so special about him, he cares about his players, and I think that's the quality of a great coach. And you really care about your players, and certainly Rodney Jr. does that at Huffman High School, and it's showing. He's building a program that the people are proud of, and I think that he's going to be able to move and go a long, long way. So he's one I'm very, very proud of.
And now you've got your receivers here at Miles this year. You've got a group that has shown flashes of being ready to do some really big things. Just talk about your group a bit and how much you enjoy coaching these guys and where you think the ceiling is for them.
Well, I tell them all the time that I think that the ceiling is very high for this group. They got a great football IQ, starting out with our dominant leader with Jay Andrews. I was fortunate enough to coach Jay his freshman year, and now we're back together his senior year. And I tell you what, a great guy, great player, and he's more even a better teammate and a leader in the group. So, and a lot of experience. Jay comes from a football family. His dad's a coach, and so does Jaquel Fells. His father's a coach. So those guys understand the interparts of making, what it takes to be a team player and what it takes to be able to, elevate your skill set and become the best player that you possibly can be. And I know we're a little bit banged up right now, but we're getting back to healthy, where I think that once we, the chemistry and the bonding, and then, we get into the conference play, it's going to be exciting. And I think that they realize that, how great they can be when they come out and put the work in. And as Coach Shade always says that, hey, you get what you put into it, and now they putting into it, and they emptying the tank, and they leaving it all on the field for us. So we just got to get it turned around, which I know we will. We have confidence in that. And just to say these guys have some success on the field.
Well, it's been quite a journey for Rodney Bivens Sr., and we're certainly glad to have him here at Miles College. Thank you for joining us here inside the Bears Den. And when we come back, we'll have Coach Sam Shade. We'll break down the Alabama State game a little more and look into the future for the Golden Bears. When we come back here inside the Bears Den. back inside the Bears Den. A. Moore, Coach Sam Shade. And Coach, as we looked at the second half of this ball game against Alabama State, it's 24-3 at halftime. We talked about some of the opportunities that you didn't get in the first half and even in the second half, but you were still kind of looking to hopefully, at least at the start of that second half, find a way to get in the end zone, get back in the ball game. Talk about that opening drive a bit and what didn't happen aside from obviously not scoring the points.
Well, we started off, we had a pretty decent kickoff return, out past the 30, almost at the 40-yard line, which got us started, and then we were able to move the ball down the field and felt like we had some momentum going. And, then, it was one of those deals we just kept shooting ourselves in the foot. And, one of the things I talked about with the team at halftime was, obviously we needed to do more, but at the same time, I just said, I said, guys, it's more us than them. Like we were sabotaging ourselves, so to speak, or inflicting wounds to ourselves. And we went back out and we felt like we were going to get off to a good start. And then we had one of those situations again where we hurt ourselves. So, that's why we kept fighting, we kept going. We just couldn't get out of our own way. And
again, score was 24-3 at halftime. It ended 24-3.
Right.
And so your defense was able to hold. And talk about that defense this year. We read on milesgreenbears.com, you've given up 4 touchdowns and 4 field goals, but it hasn't felt like those scores have kept you out of ball games because your defense has played so well.
Right. The thing about our defense in the game on Saturday is, we gave up 2 big plays. I think the pass was a 60-plus yard pass for a touchdown, and we gave up the long run, which the long run, that's the one that bothers you as a coach because we had a number of guys that had opportunities to get the guy on the ground, and we don't get him on the ground. So obviously we're going to be working some tackling drills, during the bye week this week. And, so we'll clean that stuff up. We'll be better. But the big plays hurt us. So you take those big plays out and then you start looking at the ball game as far as what they did to us. You feel pretty good about it when you take out the big plays.
You have your defensive ends, Rock Dowdell, also Jermichael Rogers, and they played well again on Saturday. Talk about their pressure because, again, you gave up the big play, but really the passing game over the first 2 weeks for the opponents has not been there where it has been a problem, if you will.
I mean, you're right. I mean, obviously, if you take away the touchdown pass, the big touchdown pass, the 60-yarder, we feel like we did a pretty decent job in the passing game. But, at the same time, you got to give them credit. I think that Alabama State made a decision that they were going to get the running game established. They said, hey, we're bigger and stronger up front, so, we're going to lean on them a little bit. And I think their plan was if it was close, let's get them to the fourth quarter, get them tired from just leaning on the whole game. And they did that. They did a good job of running the ball against us. We got some things we got to fix, but I don't think the passing game was something that they just went in saying they were going to throw the ball a lot, especially with a new quarterback in the game.
And you talked about Jeremiah Hudson-Davis a little earlier, playing the safety position. You were going with young guys, and he obviously being one of them. Why is it important to get those young guys into those circumstances and situations that you were able to let them play in against Alabama State?
Well, he's actually one of our starters. He's one of our better safeties. LaShawn Young is the free safety. He's a true sophomore. Didn't play a whole lot last year, but both of those guys have talent and have ability. They just haven't played a lot. They don't have as much game experience, so they're kind of learning on the fly. Compared to last year, we had 3 safeties playing for us that had already graduated. Those guys had a bunch of experience playing, and they could make some plays that our guys right now might be a step off of making because they just haven't seen some of the things they're seeing before.
You made a change at quarterback late in the ball game. We talked a lot about Cameron Ivory last week and how well he looked in making some of the big plays against West Alabama. What did you feel about his performance, and why did you make the change?
Well, first off, like I said earlier, we were at a point in the ball game. It was 24-3. We had our opportunities to make something happen, and And, the last 2 years we played Alabama State, we've come out of those games with, some of our key players done for the season. So at that point, we just made a conscious decision that, okay, we had our chance. Let's get some guys out like Cam Ivory. He's our guy. He gives us the best chance to win at quarterback. So, we made that change and a couple other changes. I think it was maybe 5-6 minutes left, maybe in the fourth quarter, something like that. So really had nothing to do with Cam's performance per se. He could have been a little bit more consistent, and I've been preaching that, and the coaching staff, we've been preaching that since the spring, not just to Cam, to our whole quarterback group. We're just looking for more consistency. And when people say, what do you mean, Coach? Well, I want to complete more passes than, maybe we complete, and he had some good throws in the game. And, then he had a couple, obviously the 2 interceptions, we'd like to have those back, but, it's early in the season. It's just his third start here at Miles College, so people forget that he hadn't played a whole lot of ball for us. So, we're trying to bring him along and get him to midseason form as soon as possible.
And C.J. Dumas, he did play that one series, and he was actually moving the team down the field before the drive stalled out.
Right.
Did you like what you see out of even on the limited time?
I did. I was glad that C.J. was able to get in and get some game experience. I hate that it was in a situation where we were losing the game. But it's always good when you're able to get that second team quarterback an opportunity to get out there and, just get his feet wet a little bit. And I was pleased with, what he did. But, same thing as far as Cam, being our guy and, just a situation where we felt like it was time to, put some other guys in, offense and defense.
So this ball game's over. It's 24-3. Your team's 0-2. Neither of those losses are conference losses. So doesn't hurt you as far as your goal of winning an SIAC championship. But still, what do you take from these two games and kind of how you evaluate your team through those first couple of ball games?
Well, I'm one of those guys. I've always used losses as lessons, and there are a lot of lessons in both ball games, particularly this ball game. Our coaching staff, we had our team meeting today. We had meetings with the players, and just getting those guys to understand that, okay, you're going to make some mistakes, but make sure we're learning from those mistakes. We're learning the lessons that we need to learn so that they don't keep popping up as the season goes on, especially, with young guys. Like I've said, we've got some young guys in some areas. Obviously, we've got some experienced guys. We've got, you just mentioned Michael Rogers and Rock Dowdell up front on that D-line. Also Zion Sharp up there. He's a senior. So I think we've got a good mix of experienced guys that have played and some young guys with some ability to where, we take advantage of this week off because we've got some injuries, got some guys that didn't play in the Alabama State game that would have helped us, and, a couple guys that are a little banged up from the game. So this week is going to help us get us ready for conference play. And, I think going into conference play, the two teams that we just faced were, really good football teams, and I think it's going to help us when we get into conference play, playing against some guys maybe not as, big and strong as the offensive line at Alabama State that, leaned on us for 4 quarters, kind of counting on that.
So you talked about it. You do not have a ball game coming up this week, but it's not a bye week per se because you still got to put in work. What kind of things do you all do maybe that are a little different during this week, knowing that you don't have a game coming up compared to what you would do on any other week?
Well, first thing is it starts with trying to get the guys that are injured healthy. We've actually got a number of guys on both sides of the ball that are injured, that didn't play in the game. I'll give you an example. Jalen Peterson, one of our receivers, number 9, he's one of our best special teams guys. He's our all-conference kick returner. He's one of our better cover guys. I think if he's out there on the long punt return, I think he probably, gets the guy on the ground because we get a great punt by Rod Smith, 52-yard punt, plus 4.0 hang time, which we've got guys down there that can make the play, and we don't make the play. But I think if Peterson's down there, he's our guy when it comes to what we call a gunner that's going to be gunning to get down there and make that tackle make the return a fair catch it. But you know, he's one of the guys that was out, and there's some other guys. So we want to get those guys back healthy, number one. Number two, we want to make a lot of corrections that we need to make offensively, defensively, special teams, because there's some things that West Alabama did to us that Alabama State took a little bit of that game plan and did some things. So those are things we definitely got to clean up, because college football is kind of a copycat deal, you know, where I tell our guys all the time, I say, look, you know, when you put stuff out there that's not good, you started a fire, and you got to put that fire out. And the film, it goes out there to the next 3-4 opponents are going to see that game film, and they're going to think that they can do the same thing, and you got to fix it, or you're going to keep seeing it. So we got things we got to fix this week. You know, obviously we know we've got Lane, our next game, which is our home game, and we feel like we've got to clean up the things from these first two games before we can move on to Lane.
So during this week where you don't have a game, the football team's still going to be working, still preparing for that home opener. It's going to come on September 21st, the Prince Hall Americanism Classic here at Albert J. Sloan Alumni Stadium in Fairfield, where we take on Lane College. Kickoff is at 4 o'clock. You'll be able to buy your tickets right now. You can go to milesgoldenbears.com to make sure that you're in the place when we have our home opener in 2 weeks. We got a couple other things to kind of go through here, non-football, if you will. Our volleyball team, they played their first game last week. They went to Stillman, lost in 4 sets. We had a couple of strong performances. A freshman, Zion, she's actually a sophomore who transferred in, Zion Williams. She had 6 kills. We also had a Kayla Treywick who had 11 kills, hit over 200. Wasn't enough, but certainly 2 sparkling performances from our volleyball players, and they're back on the court on the 10th, which is tomorrow, or today actually, and they will be back in action at Shorter. So be sure to go to milesgoldenbears.com to be able to check them out to see how you can follow and support our volleyball squad. Our golf team is playing over at Montevallo. They just came back from Japan, of all places. They did very well over on the other side of the world, and now they're back. They're playing here on American soil. Their first tournament, it's the full noon tournament over in Montevallo. Not the best start, but again, still more back to play tomorrow, and so make sure that you can kind of keep up with them as well as they go through their season. They have a season that plays in the fall and the spring, so they can kind of get their feet wet a little bit. They're playing some guys in Montevallo who are getting their first shot at playing for the Golden Bears, but we got to get them all ready to go, because when April and May come around, you want to have them championship ready. So you can keep it with our golf team. Our cross-country teams also, they participated in the Twilight Run out in Montevallo. They're doing their best job, and they're going to run again this week at Jacksonville State. Again, if you want to keep up with anything that goes on here at Miles College in athletics, go to milesgoldenbears.com. You can also follow us on Instagram, on Facebook, on X, Golden Bears of MC, and you can keep up with everything that's going on here. And so, like I said, we're not going to be here next week because we don't have a game. I get a bye week. I'll take that. But we'll be back again on the 21st. And let's also shout out our players of the week. Jeremiah Hudson-Davis, we talked about him. He's one of our athletes of the week. 11 tackles, 7 solos, career high from the safety position. Also, Kayla Treywick, we talked about her 11 kills. There's some more symmetry for you. We talked about the touchdowns on the field goals. Now we got the kills and the tackles. We'll take that. But they did an excellent job, and you can read more about them at milesgoldenbears.com. So another great week here inside the Bears Den with Coach Sam Shea. Thanks for joining us. And we have Rodney Bivens here as well. I'm A.A. Moore. We'll be here in 2 weeks inside the Bears Den breaking down the Lane College game.